Hey, it's Allie Edwards, and I am back with another month in my Project Life album for 2020. This is the month of May, and I'm using the May Stories by the Month kit, which is one of the subscription options that we have on my site. You can also access these designs digitally, and I will link those for you below if you want to just print them out on your own. This is my starting place, and I also I'm doing 4 inserts this time. I don't have a ton of photos from May. May is also the month where I did my Week in the Life project that I do each year. And so a lot of the photos that I took in May were just during that week time period. So I think I have maybe one photo that's repeated that's also in that project, and the other ones that I'm including here are just some random ones that I picked out from the photos that I did take during May. Again, my goal with this project is not to include every single photo that I took. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to have just kind of an overview of what the month looked like. And obviously in this case, many of our lives look different right now. And so one of the things that I decided to do for this one is I did 4 different 6x12 inserts. And I'm going to add these in here. This one's going to get some text added onto it. So what was happening in May, I had to power wash. That was one of the things that happened. Simon was able to pick up his cap and gown, and so this is a little story about him not wanting to take it off and how he went for a walk with it on, and people were waving and honking at him, and he loved it, and that was really fun. May, we also did May the 4th Be With You, so we had on May 4th, we did a big Star Wars day, and so a little post about that, and then an image there. And then a photo of the girls and I going on a bike ride to pick up flowers, CSA, Community Supported Agriculture flower subscription that I subscribed to, so we rode bikes and picked that up. These ones I did in Photoshop. I will add in the May the 4th word art for you guys. If you want to download that, you can use it for next year. You can use it for this year if you care about documenting May the 4th. And I left space on this one so that I could add something into the top. I was thinking about some of these maybe. These were pleather embellishment options that were an add-on for the, I believe, Rome story kit. So this may actually still be available in the shop. I'll see if they are, if you are a subscriber. There were also some other circle ones that were included in the kit, but I'm considering adding that on top there, either maybe with a pattern, like I could add the pattern there and then have that on top, or just add that on top there, and kind of going back and forth between what I want to do with that. So I'm going to probably do a little bit of embellishing on these. The story got added obviously onto 3 of them there. This one needs to have a little bit of story added on. I will deal with those as an insert in a minute. And then I'm using the cards from the kit, the ones that say thankful for. There was thankful for this month, thankful for friends, and then thankful for today. And I'm going to handwrite some journaling on those. The other thing that I think I'm going to do is May had a stamp set, and there's a messy circle here that says May looked like this. And I think I'm going to stamp and punch those out and put this on each one of these of the photos. You know, May look like this, and May look like this, and May look like this. So that's probably the first thing that I'm going to do. And I'm also going to come up for one word for May. And I'm not sure yet what that is going to be, but that will go on to that card as well. So I'm going to go ahead, dive in. Again, I think, you know, this is definitely a different approach than how I previously approached Project Life. Last year I kind of looked for, I did monthly last year, and I looked for kind of 3 stories to emphasize each month. And this year I'm kind of just doing more of a kind of a global overview of what was happening over the course of the month. Again, my intention is not to include every single photo that I take over the course of the month, but just highlighting a few things. All right, I'm gonna dive in for this one. All right, for this one I decided that I did want to have some repeated embellishment. So I grabbed the May looked like this stamp there and a bunch of my different ink colors and went ahead and used that, stamped it on white cardstock, and then used a 1.5 inch circle punch. The 1 inch was too small. 1.5 inch circle punch to punch those out, knowing that those would be the main thing that was linking, or the design element that was repeating on the majority of my photos. And I think that I ended up getting it on all of the photos. There is a chipboard piece too if you're working with the physical May Stories by the Month kit, a physical chipboard piece, and I did add that on to one of the photos of Simon and Anna there. This is one of my favorite ways to use stamps, and it's a great example of a way that you can create repetition and cohesion by using stamps to create multiple embellishments. There are definitely times where you don't have 7 or 10 or whatever of the same embellishment. So being able to stamp something and punch it out or cut it out is a really easy way to make a repeated embellishment. So you can see that I'm stapling, and I decided to staple them onto my photos. I have one that's touching the edge. The rest of them are at other places on top of my photos. And so at this point in the process, I wasn't sure if I was going to add something else onto these circles or if I was just going to leave the circles as they were. I had decided that I knew that I wanted to handwrite onto my journal cards for additional journaling, those 3x4 Thankful For cards that were included in the kit. But then I also had journaling, obviously, that got printed onto those 6x12 enlargements there. And most of that, if I remember correctly, was cutting and pasting text from Instagram that I had written down. I think the one of Simon in his cap and gown, there wasn't a copy and pasting opportunity there, but I just wrote a little bit of a story about how excited he was that he had picked up his cap and gown and how he wore it on a walk and how people honked their horns and waved at him. And it was just kind of a fun way in the middle of all of this. They obviously didn't have an in-person graduation, but I think I'll tell more of that story next month. This was just when he was able to pick up his cap and gown, and he played video games in it, and he pretty much wore it for a couple days straight, which was pretty awesome. So I love having those 6x12 inserts included in there in those photo enlargements. I just feel like that they're such a nice contrast with the smaller photos. And in case you didn't know, I do print my photos here at home, and I usually try to include my printers in the supply list. So you'll see those in the supply list down below. I have an oversized printer that I use to print those 6x12 or 12x12 pages. It actually prints up to 13x19. And then I also have a smaller printer for the 4x6 and 3x4 photos. But for this case right here, you can see that I did end up adding on the stamped circles onto each one of my 6x12s there. I also added a couple chipboard circles onto the one with the picture of Simon in his cap and gown, and that actually kind of became part of the idea of how I ended up going in and adding additional chipboard pieces, chipboard circles after the fact. That was like the next day when I came back to it. Another thing that I didn't actually videotape it, but I went through all of my acrylic words. So Story Kit subscribers, each time you get a Story Kit in the mail, you get an acrylic word. That's how we've been doing it in the past, at least. And I looked through the ones that I had to see what did I have that I could use on this card. And the card says May was, and so I just put home because that seemed to make a lot of sense about what May looked like for us. I also stamped the hard part and the easy part because that felt like what being at home was. And did feel, or it still feels like kind of what it feels like now. It's like both the hard part and the easy part is the fact that we're staying at home. I used the phrases roller stamp there to add sentiments inside of the Avery index tabs. They are still something that I continue to use. I really like to have them as an insert. Or to add onto inserts, and I just order those on Amazon, and I've got a link there for you as well. And then I grabbed my pen and I just decided to do the handwriting on these different journal cards. So there was thankful for this month, thankful for friends, and then thankful for today. So thankful for this month, I just talked about how May just feels like a blur when I look back on it. And it wasn't really because it went really fast. It was just because was just us kind of all sinking into what our reality looked like, which for us was was about being at home. On the Thankful for Friends card, I wrote about Anna and Audrey and how I'm thankful for the relationship that they have together. And I think part of it for them is because they're not here all the time together. So when they do come back here, they are excited and it feels like they have a friend. So they're just a couple months apart. And then on this last one, Thankful for Today, I was documenting how Simon got to vote for the first time in our May primaries here in Oregon. And in case you didn't know, I've been talking about this a lot, but in Oregon, we only have mail-in voting, and it's been that way for like 20 years. So that's how Simon's first experience was with voting, was all mail-in, or you drop your ballots off at a ballot drop box there. Let's see, what else do I want to tell you? Okay, so what happened then is the next day, like I worked on this for one day, and then I came back to it the next day and was trying to decide, do I want to add additional embellishments? And this is where I ended up pulling out and then dumping out all of my chipboard pieces that I have from past story kits, past shop shop products, things like that. And I decided just to go in there and pick out a bunch of the circle chipboard pieces that I had left over. So there's like an OMG for Simon voting. There was a less is more than I put with the flowers. I just basically dumped it out. Let's see, what does that one say? That one says good stuff. Looking for sentiments on top of those circle chipboard pieces, the smaller circle chipboard pieces that I could add on top of the stamped circle. Again, for me, whether it's, whether I'm going back in time and doing weekly project life, when I was working on that previously, I almost always, or my favorite way to approach that is to have embellishments that are repeated, that create consistency and cohesion across the spread. With these monthly ones, I haven't been doing that as much, just because my approach feels different, but I definitely liked doing it this time. So it's a nice way to be able to think about that you can have consistency and cohesion come through the products that you're selecting. And if you've been a subscriber for a long time, or if you've bought very many of my products from my shop, we have lots of chipboard. Chipboard is definitely something that I continue to like. I love putting designs on them. I like having, we have lots that have sentiments on it, because that's a lot of what I like to add to my stories as well. So this was a fun part of the process, just going back in and looking for circle pieces. It also really made me think about kind of wanting to reorganize those again, and like have all the circle chipboards together, have all the long vertical ones together, have all of the square ones together, have all of the tag shaped ones together. So I'm considering doing that. I just need a little bit of a different organizational setup, I think, for that. And then found one that said play day. And then I think the one that I ended up adding on to the photo of me power washing was just one that said today. But in the end, I really like how this one came together. I like having those repeated embellishments. I like the photo enlargements. One other thing to mention, I can't remember if I mentioned this previously, but this is the same month where I did Week in the Life. And so did a full album on that. There's probably a video here on YouTube and on my blog for information about that project. But often when I do that project, I have less photos in Project Life for that month.